Seeing your monthly Pinterest views dropping can feel really discouraging and frustrating if you're working hard at your Pinterest account every single week and yet you're not seeing the results that you want. For this video specifically, I'm talking about the pinners whose accounts were doing really good and then all of a sudden watched their monthly Pinterest views drop at what seemed like a random point of the year, like for example, August. But I can assure you, if this is happening to you, especially if it's a time like August or September or the end of December into January, that there is a reason for this and it is completely normal. However, it can still be disheartening and frustrating to deal with, so let's talk about why your Pinterest monthly views are dropping and what to do about it. So in case you're not sure, first off, let's talk about what Pinterest monthly views are to begin with. So your Pinterest monthly views are seen at the top of your profile, and it is described by Pinterest as the number of times your published pins and pins saved from your claimed domains or accounts were seen on screen in the last 30 days. So if you have no clue what that means, in the most simple terms, it basically means the number of times that the pins that are linked to your claimed accounts, like your website, are viewed. That is it. And here you can see what mine on my account look like, and I've actually been subject to this very mysterious August drop as well, because my views used to be much, much higher. So across the board, this is happening to a lot of bloggers, which is why I'm making this video, because I've seen a lot of people very, very concerned about it, and you don't need to be. So in order to understand why your Pinterest monthly views are dropping around this time or other times of the year, let me give you a little bit of an analogy. When we're talking about Pinterest, I like to think of it like a store because Pinterest is very season heavy. So you know when you go to a store and you see that they have Halloween stuff out in the middle of August, you may even think to yourself how ridiculous it is that it's summer, yet Halloween stuff is infiltrating your stores already. But that is because of early shoppers. So many people are excited about fall. A lot of people think about it as soon as August starts. So because people are prepping for fall, the stores are putting that stuff out early to make money off of it, especially because people want to plan early. They want to buy things early to get prepped and ready for fall because they're so excited. And you might think, what does this have to do with Pinterest? Pinterest is the exact same way. I think of it like a store because about 2 months before the actual holiday is when searches for that holiday actually start to pick up. So for Halloween and fall time, that would be August, which means that if you don't know that this is the case and things start to pick up 2 months before the actual holiday and you don't begin to capitalize on all of that fall related content 2 months early, you may start to see a drop in stats if you are just pinning your regular everyday content. And the same goes for holidays like Christmas. And the thing is, the bigger the holiday is to people, the sooner they are going to start prepping for it and searching it up on Pinterest. And if we're looking at the month of August, that's also when many children go back to school, at least here in the States. School typically starts around here, late August, early September. So that means people on Pinterest, parents, are either searching for back to school things or they are trying to soak up the last bit of summer with their kids and they're getting ready for the hustle and bustle of school time, so they're not on Pinterest. So all of this would contribute to your monthly views dropping. This is what I would call the slow season on Pinterest, but the good thing to know is it always picks back up again and goes right back to normal. And I talk about this and a lot more in my course called Pinterest Simplicity. It is a self-paced course that teaches you how to grow your online influence using Pinterest. And if you want to check it out, I will leave the link for that down below in the description. So besides the drop in stats, how can you tell when it is the slow season on Pinterest? And how do you get a chance to prepare for it so that you don't have this drop in stats? Now, there are some pretty universal slow seasons on Pinterest, like I mentioned already, January after Christmas, or when summer starts in July, or around August. That's pretty much when almost everybody suffers a little bit. And the reason for that is after Christmas, people are tired from the holidays, and January, there's not really much going on, so people are not on Pinterest as much. Or July is when the weather starts to get warmer here in the US, so many people just aren't online as much, and summer break for the kids is usually around that time as well. So people are out enjoying the sun and not on Pinterest, and then we've talked, of course, in extent about why people are not on Pinterest in August. But outside of those few different seasons, different niches can have different slow seasons and popular seasons. So for example, a travel student of mine saw a big drop in between January and February because around that time, nobody was searching for travel. They were really, really popular in December because people were searching for travel for the upcoming year ahead because they were excited about planning their trips. But once January hit into February, they didn't see any more traffic until it picked up again about May. But a blogger around that time in January or February talking about Valentine's Day would do really great around that time. Or a mommy blogger. They may do great during back to school time, so right now in August, but everybody else is going to suffer because the attention is elsewhere. The attention really doesn't go too many places on Pinterest. It never really is not on Pinterest unless it's specific seasons that we already talked about. But a lot of those times the attention is just elsewhere. So back to school is popular, therefore people are not looking up any other niche, they're looking up just back to school. So if you can find specifically when your slow season is for your niche, you can mentally prepare for that so that you know stats are gonna drop and you don't freak out. And then when you know a big season is coming up, you can ramp up your promotion during that time. So let's talk about how. And the first place that I start looking when my Pinterest monthly views are dropping is the Pinterest Trends tool, which you can find for free on the Pinterest platform. This is gonna tell you exactly what people are searching for, so you will know the right time when the holiday traffic picks up. For example, if we're just gonna look up some generic things like fall, you can see from this graph that they start to pick up at the very beginning of August and it rises pretty quickly throughout the rest of the month. So this means if you're posting your normal everyday content, you're gonna see a drop in stats because the attention has shifted elsewhere. But as you can also see, the fall searches will drop off after fall is over, of course. So the attention will eventually go back to the normal content that you're posting. And this is important to understand because then we know it's not forever. We don't have to freak out and think our accounts are dying and they're never going to recover. We know it's just for a season based off of just this one very, very generic graph. And with this little bit of investigating from the Pinterest Trends tool, we get an exact timeline for when those shifts happen. And I talk more about this Pinterest Trends tool in Pinterest Simplicity, where you get to learn exactly how to utilize this tool and use it to your advantage so that you don't miss out on any awesome holiday traffic. So if you're interested in learning any more about this or just in Pinterest in general, definitely make sure to check out the course down below in the description. But I also want to take a look at another major holiday like Christmas. Searches for this holiday really start in September, but they ramp up in October because that is 2 months before the actual holiday. And like I said, the bigger the holiday, the sooner people start searching. So September would be a good time for people to start thinking about Christmas gifts or, for in this example, Christmas holiday decor. And if you are looking to capitalize on that traffic, you want to start posting Christmas things in September and then promoting them all through October and probably into November as well. You could also still promote in December, but you want to start probably around September and definitely promote in October. And it may seem silly to think about Christmas in the middle of fall, but that's what people are doing and the data is showing that. Plus, it does take some time for Pinterest to categorize your pins, understand what they're about, so they can get them to rank in search or circulate them around people's home feeds, so it makes sense to post them early as well. So you want to get in there as soon as possible before that curve, before that spike takes off. Now for this example, I have just used very, very super generic terms to show you exactly what you need to be doing, but you can check out way more relevant terms to your niche using this tool. Not every single keyword that you look up is going to be in here because it's strictly just the trending ones. So you may have to play around a little bit to see exactly what's trending in your niche, but you can really see when you're looking at travel and maybe you're looking at travel in Colorado or whatever you're looking at for your niche, you can see, okay, this is when it dips, so I know I don't need to panic. It is just the ebbs and flows of Pinterest, as they like to call it. Or I know I want to start posting Christmas crafts at this time in September. I would do more of a deep dive than I've done, but just to show you exactly how to use this tool, that's what you want to be doing. And that way, if you see your Pinterest monthly views dropping this year, you can either recover them right now if you've seen this video in enough time, or you can plan to do better for the next year. Now let's talk about exactly what to do when you see your Pinterest monthly views dropping. Because there are ways that you can diagnose the problem and fix it, or just wait out the slow periods for the highs that are going to come again. Now, the first thing we already talked about is check out the Pinterest Trends tool to see why they're dropping. This is going to be the first step because we want to first determine if there is a slow season that is the cause for the drop, or if something else is going on, like a strategy needs to change or something like that. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to say, yes, that is exactly why there is a slow season on Pinterest. So the next thing that you want to do, if this is the case, is you want to understand that the drop is not forever. Because the next thing I would worry about is the mindset around your Pinterest monthly views dropping. You don't want to give up and just stop pinning because Pinterest is slow right now. The best thing that I learned from doing client work in the past is to take the emotion out of pinning. So many bloggers and content creators make the stats mean something about them as a person. Like, we are great if the stats are great, and we suck and we don't know how to do our job if the stats are not great, which is not the case at all. So you just have to take the emotion out of it. It is just stats. That is it. It doesn't mean that you're a good person or a bad person, or you're doing great or you're not doing great if your Pinterest stats are dropping. It's just a puzzle that needs to be figured out, and maybe a strategy needs to be adjusted, or a waiting period just needs to happen because the attention is elsewhere for the moment. I noticed that when I was working with clients, I found it a lot easier to keep working on their accounts when the stats were dropping, and I looked at it way more objectively. I just kept pinning and tweaking the strategy until I found out what was wrong, or I just kept pinning through the slow season. And that's because I had no choice. The client was paying me and they were expecting me to pin. So quitting was not an option for me. I had to keep pinning. Versus with my own account, if my stats dropped, it felt like I was failing, and it was so much easier to quit pinning on my own account because nobody was relying on me but me to get the pins posted, so it was easier to fall off. So I want you to bring that laid back mindset that I had into your own account. It could be difficult if you haven't experienced exactly what I described yourself, but hopefully me calling out the issue helps enough. So just take the emotion out of pinning, keep pinning, and understand that it is just for a little bit and things are going to go back up as normal very, very soon. Or if that's not the case and it is because your stats are dropping, then it's just a puzzle that you need to figure out. You need to keep testing, you need to keep tweaking, and you need to keep going so that you can figure out what's wrong as opposed to just giving up, because your stats will never grow if you give up. But the third thing that you need to do is start tailoring your current content to the current season. So if you want to start capitalizing today on holiday traffic to get a jump on what you potentially already have missed, you can take some of your existing content and title it for the holiday on your Pinterest pins. So for example, I have a blog post called 6 Daily Habits for Successful Women. So on the actual Pinterest pin, when I'm going to promote the post, I could call it 6 Daily Habits to Start This Fall. The blog post is going to stay the exact same. Nothing is going to change, but the Pinterest pin title will be different. Because a pro tip is your Pinterest pin title and your blog post title do not have to be the same. That, of course, doesn't mean that they should be wildly different. Like, it should still say the exact same thing. It still should convey what's going on in the blog post, but you can and should switch up your Pinterest pin titles a little bit to spice it up. Because if you are just putting out the same boring title over and over and over again, and that title is not hitting with your Pinterest pin viewers, then no one's going to click on it. Or Pinterest is going to get bored of putting out the same post over and over again. Your viewers are going to get bored with seeing it, and then they're not going to push your pins out. So you want to be switching up your Pinterest pin titles. And in this case, you can tailor them to be fall, winter, Christmas, whatever holiday is coming up. Or maybe you can say you have a roundup post of the top 10 places to eat in Colorado. The Pinterest pin could be the top 10 places to eat this fall in Colorado. These are very generic titles. You're obviously going to come up with something way better than that, but you get the picture just by putting in this fall or Christmas or whatever. It's way easier to just switch up the pin title and keep the blog post the exact same, but the keywords that you're targeting on that Pinterest pin are going to be season specific. And if you're worried about people noticing, they might notice, but I've gone to blog posts where the Pinterest pin title is different than the blog post, and I still read the blog post and found it helpful because I understand as a viewer that your titles are going to change. So it's not really a big deal. I wouldn't worry too hard about it. Unless you're posting a title that makes absolutely no sense, then in that case, you obviously don't want to do that. But if they're pretty similar and they say the same thing, then it's going to be no problem to do that. And then the other thing that you want to do is create content now for the holiday. So if you are in the right niche where holiday content makes sense, then you want to start creating and putting out that content right now. It's best to put out holiday content before that spike that you see on Pinterest trends, but let's say you're hearing this a bit late and the holiday is a little bit closer than you would like it to be. I would still, if you have time, put out that content anyway. Late holiday shoppers exist, procrastinators for the holidays exist, so it's not really the end of the world. And not to mention, Pinterest pins can rank for a really long time. So it's very possible that the pins that you create this year will begin to circulate and rank within the next year. So it's still worth it to put out that content now and pin it. Now, in a perfect world, you have planned for the upcoming holiday and you have started putting out brand new content to get ahead of the spike. So your content is already there when people are searching for it. But even if that isn't the case, you can still put out your holiday content as long as it fits your niche. And hopefully it can still gain some traction before the actual holiday. Or at the very least, worst case scenario, which is still a good case scenario, you will at least have some content posted that can be promoted the next year as well. So just think of it as you're being ahead for the next year. Or in the same vein of reusing old content, you could also just create a bunch of roundup posts super quickly if this fits within your niche. So let's say you're a food blogger and you have a bunch of individual food recipes that you've already done. It would be super quick and easy to take 15 of them or whatever and write them all down in one blog post and then link out individually to each recipe. So for example, you could do 15 comfort foods to try this winter. And then when they clicked on the post, the reader would get a blurb of all 15 different recipes and the option to read further on whatever recipe they liked best, because they could just click on read the full recipe and you put a button there or a link, and then they would go to actually read the full blog post. And that's a brand new piece of content right there that you can start promoting right now. There are a ton of ways that you can capitalize on holiday traffic. And the best way is to plan and do it early. But if you are behind every year, like I am, there are still some ways that you can raise your traffic within this slow season. However, if none of these ideas fit your niche, you cannot post for the holidays because your content doesn't really tailor to that type of content. Your best bet is to keep pinning anyway through these slow seasons so you don't have your account get neglected 3 to 4 months out of the year, and just know that it will pick up again soon. It is never a bad time to post to Pinterest. And if you want to learn any more about this topic or way more about Pinterest from me, make sure to check out my course, Pinterest Simplicity, down below in the description. Make sure to like if you like, subscribe to my channel down below for more, and I'll see you next week. Bye.